Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at my best game I've ever played. 9 years World of Warships, best game ever. And it happens to be in Wisconsin. Well, maybe my second best game ever. It's very, very close. The previous one was a long time ago, played Ohio and got 409,000 damage with that thing. Crazy, absolutely ridiculous game. And this one is good enough to rival it. So I thought we'd start off the week with an amazing match here in the Wisconsin. This ship, of course, being in the Dockyard. The missions are gone now, but you do have the option to whale the rest of it. Now, I'm not going to say this is the most overpowered ship in the world. You do need to get broadsides. That's the key here, is this ship looks amazing when you're getting broadside ships. But if you're up against a lot of angled ships, it is going to struggle a little bit more since we only have those 406s here. A really fun combat instruction here that allows you to not only reload your guns quicker while it's active, it also is going to bring your consumables back quicker, which we're going to use rather aggressively later on in this match to help us stay alive. For now, though, the meta with 2024 boats is going to be long range, especially at the start. I'm really trying to do this more. I know it's boring, but I'm trying to do this more, where the first 5 to maybe even 10 minutes of a game, I'm trying not to push up too much. I know it's very boring and not the best way or the most fun way to play, but it does allow me to, on occasion, have some insane matches like this where the matches go into the late game. Unfortunately, it means, though, that the blowout games, I'm not really accomplishing all that much. But this one is not going to be a blowout. This is one of the few where it's going to come right down to the wire. With the Wisconsin here, we are just slowly reversing, angled away. This is kind of the stereotypical boring way to play this ship, but I'm doing it too, guys. Don't worry. I say it's bad, I say it's boring, I say it's lame, but I'm doing it too. So don't think I'm being too hard on everybody else out there when I'm also the one doing it. Cross maps are going to be a very good thing for Wisconsin. This ship, of course, having those slightly faster shells out to range due to the better air drag characteristics compared to an Iowa or a Montana, allows us to maybe go after the enemy carrier, who's pushed up rather aggressively. So hopefully I can get him before he gets behind that island. And just playing passively, playing cautiously here, just waiting for the game to come to us. And I think this is how you're going to want to play general battleships these days. End of last week, I took a look at the Kurfürst in 2024, and while I managed to get a few decent matches there, it was a bit of a struggle to play that ship. And that's because it really shines at closer ranges. And a Wisconsin being good at mid and long ranges, it can be good at close ranges too, but it really is much better at those mid ranges. It's going to allow this ship to just perform better in these. Wow, that's so disappointing. I mean, I knew that was going to happen. I played this game a little while ago, but seeing that again, that is just a disappointing shot into a Nakamov. That's okay. Plenty of time left. We are just staying alive here. But yeah, that's kind of the issue with a lot of the closer range brawly ships. They just don't fit the meta these days. So you need to save them for brawls or ranked game modes where you can push up a little bit more. The nice thing about Wisconsin is it really can be a bit of both. Even though the ship does lack some HP and still has a pretty massive superstructure that can be hit pretty easily, it's very similar to GK in that regard, actually, the size of an Iowa superstructure. Going up to a Montana or an Ohio, you do get a much smaller superstructure there, on top of the better armor and more HP as well there. So this ship really does need to rely on these heals as well as this combat instruction to bring them back quicker, to give it a reasonable shot at closer ranges. Our team's not doing so good in this one. That's going to happen a lot in these very high damage, high battle impact games. You really do need a team that's not going to win a lot of games typically in order for you to get some massive results. But a very slow start here. Not very inspiring to have 6 minutes into this match already and only 65,000 damage, especially if this is supposed to be rivaling some of my best games ever. We do take another shot at that Nakamov, hoping to take him out. It's always nice to get rid of carriers early, and especially when they play so aggressively. Our teammate manages to do that. We got a few overpens there, not a big deal. Now I want to really focus on this flank, try and help progress our team along here, since our team has won the C flank, but we don't have much there, and neither does the enemy team, so I don't really expect much to happen there. The real battle is on this A flank and for the B cap here. You notice how most of the enemy team is kind of just north of this AB area. I'm not going to push bow into this. That would be very suicidal considering there's a submarine here as well. So doing the classic thing of getting ready to turn away and kite and maybe reverse towards them. That's what you got to do these days, man. It really does feel like that's the whole meta to playing battleships and long-range open water cruisers is push up close or close as you can with your decent concealment. Here we have like 12.9 kilometers, which is very nice. And then as you're in concealment, then use that to get a nice turnout available to you, and then start opening up, start firing once you're safely angled away. That seems to be the way to do things these days, and so we're going to try to do that ourselves. Trying to help on this Shimakaze as well, although our submarine is kind of intermittently spotting it with surfacing and then going below water. So that's fine. We're just here to help. We really do need to deal with this sub and this Shimakaze if we want to do anything good into this match. The ASWs here are just very standard for tier 10 battleships. They do all right. You do want to be getting those out as those subs get spotted around you, because destroyers have to get very close to do any sort of damage. So if they're spotting them for you, definitely help out your DDs by doing some really good damage there. A couple direct hits, and hopefully we'll be able to take them out. Although we lose our Johan to that sub, unfortunately. And still just playing passive. 100k. Nearly half the match is gone. How is this going to be so good? Well, it's that last little bit of a match, of course, that goes so well. We haven't really been using our combat instructions either. That's something where over time I've been getting better at just using it as a reload booster straight up in the early game. But I'm still just a little bit worried. Now that that sub's gone, I'm a little less worried. But Shimakaze, submarine coming after us potentially, now that he's dead, no longer. But a little worried about that cross-torp kind of dilemma. Dealing with that is pretty hard if we decide to use our damage control and heal, and then we're not accessing that anytime soon. So that's what I was kind of waiting for there. But now that it's gone, I'm gladly going to use my reload booster here. Unfortunately, not quite able to use it on the Shima. That was the intention there. Since Wisconsin's dispersion is so good, especially into DDs at these mid to close ranges, you can guarantee a lot of damage in on them with even using the armor piercing here. A lot of times when I'm using AP into destroyers, some kind of asked why not swap over to the HE. We have Halsey here, we have the improved commanders that allow us to get over to different ammo types quicker with gun feeder. Well, the reason being that the only time HE is better into destroyers is when you can guarantee hits into the hull. Otherwise, high explosive can hit modules on the top of the ship and do very much reduced damage, where the AP, when it hits, it's just guaranteeing you that overpen 10% of your alpha damage. So typically that's going to be a little better into angled DDs especially, and at longer ranges too. I just think AP is going to be much, much better. And that has played out most of the time. At closer ranges, though, when you can guarantee hits into their hull specifically, that's when the high explosive is going to do some very nice damage. Otherwise, stick to the armor piercing. And since we're typically going to be shooting at a lot of these battleships, enemy cruiser, Atago there, a nice opportunistic shot there to kill him and get us our Confederate. Something we can't quite do if we're on the high explosive here, just waiting for this Shimakaze to pop up. So that's where I'm usually just sticking with armor piercing for the most part. This build is also pretty greedy. We talked about it a few times already, but heavy AP as well as furious. Wisconsin can get away with it a little bit easier thanks to the combat instructions, allowing you to get back to your damage control a little quicker. Those fires aren't quite as big a deal on this ship, which is pretty nice to play with. Now slowly pushing up here, our Belau is moving in, our Bourgogne is pretty close by, so I do want to deal with this Shimakaze if I can. I think the Sherman was spotting him here, so a little bit unfortunate that it wasn't the Belau or myself that allowed us to get those spots. And again, using those combat instructions for the reload here at this point in time, because I really want to kill this guy. That getting this Shimakaze out would be huge for our ability to not only push this flank, but potentially come back into this game. Enemy team's almost at, what, 750 points? Now that the Shim is dead, a little bit less, of course, but 750 points. They have 2 caps, although we should be getting A here soon. It's not looking so good for our team, but we have amassed a reasonable amount of damage here. 166,000 is pretty good, and should be winning this flank slowly now to deal with this Karl Johan. Anytime you're playing on a flank and you're angled towards the bulk of the enemy team, which you should be usually doing. I'm bow in this case, but earlier on I was stern towards them. You always want to be shooting at the guy closest to the edge of the flank. That's going to give you the best opportunity to angle to the most of the incoming fire and still get most of your guns off on a priority target. So that's where here with this Karl Johan, I can shoot all my guns at him while staying very nicely angled to the Preußen, Wisconsin, Louisiana. If I were to say, want to shoot the Preußen with all of my guns off my left side of my flank, I'd be showing my entire broadside to this Karl Johan. It's not a very scary ship when it comes to its main guns, but still, the idea is the same. It's nice to focus down targets on the flanks sooner, allowing you to angle to the bulk of the enemy team. Defensive fire there helping us out just a little bit into those Louisiana dive bombers. It is nice to have, I've got to say, a defensive fire on this ship. It is a big improvement over something like the Montana. Feels a little more like Vermont, where yes, the strikes will still oftentimes get through to you, but they won't get the follow-up strikes nearly as often when you're using this defensive fire. At least in this game, we don't have to worry about the enemy carrier coming after us. And our friendly sub's going to kill that Johan, allowing us to move on to the next target. Again, just going in line. Next up is going to be Louisiana, or maybe Preußen. They're pretty close. Wisconsin, though, flat broadside. At longer ranges, we actually can Citadel him, thanks to the Citadel roof being overmatchable. But the Citadel is a couple flights below the waterline, so pretty difficult at closer ranges. And even at longer ranges, it's still a lot of RNG involved. Right here, getting greedy for that rear turret on the Wisconsin. We were pretty broadside to that Louisiana and Preußen. Pretty fortunate that those shells dropped short for us there. Our carrier's been taken out as well. That happened a little bit ago, and I don't know why he pushed up as well. Both carriers pushed up to kind of mirrored islands on that island chain there. And didn't work out for either one of them, which I guess is fine. More games where carriers die early, I'm fine with that. Even if it's my carrier, as long as the other one goes too. That's really all that matters to me. Still on this Wisconsin, keep thinking, man, next salvo's surely going to get him here. Notice our potential damage here climbing up pretty good, 2.8 million potential damage, and I've only used 1 heal so far. Pretty impressive, although that does mean we've been playing pretty passive as well. Since Wisconsin at mid to close ranges, that superstructure takes a lot. So anytime you get a lot of potential damage, not a lot of heals used, you're probably playing passive, which I certainly have been. Now, we've basically gone through 15 minutes of this game, and I'm at what? About half, a little more than half of the damage of some of my best games. That's a little better. Actually, very surprising. 13 kilometers, I didn't think that would be possible to Citadel to Wisconsin there. So pretty fortunate for us, and that does put us up to 250,000 damage. Now the last 5 minutes here, close games like this, it is a 3v4, and the enemy team's up on points, but we got caps. So we're in a good shot to win this one. The enemy Preußen is quite healthy, but pretty far away from the cap here, and not too much of a threat at longer ranges, those German battleships. Not as big of a deal. I'm really trying to hit his superstructure here, although I am unfortunately failing. Now, it's a 3v3 with the Bourgogne going down. That's a little unfortunate, but still, very good chances to win this game. And I got to tell you what I'm thinking about here, because this is the really fun parts for me. This is the funnest part of the game, is close games down to the wire where your decision-making matters. I'm thinking about, well, we don't have the game winning anytime soon. Let me try and either kill this Preußen or push him so far back that I can turn in on the Vermont and Brisbane and not have to worry about him nearly as much at those longer ranges. And I'm trying to stay safe from both the Vermont and the Brisbane. Notice the score timer here. This is a mod that allows you to make some of these decisions in the late game. It's very nice. The enemy team's going to win in 6 minutes. Well, the game is over on the clock at 4 minutes. So getting into the caps quickly doesn't really matter here. All that matters is either taking out enemies safely or stalling the cap, I suppose. But we got a lot of time. So Preußen pushed back. Now time to deal with this enemy Vermont. Pushing out here is a little scary, as Brisbane Torps could be on the way. That's why I'm kind of hugging this island, trying to stay as close as I can. And we time it pretty much perfectly to catch that Vermont's broadside. And we do like 17,000 damage. Unfortunately, no Citadel there. And he does 18,000 to our superstructure. There come those torps, by the way. Fortunately, we are going to avoid them. Our Sherman is not, though. That's going to make things a little tricky. Enemy team wins in 2 minutes now. We gotta go. There's no stalling or trying to play a little bit passive, a little bit smart here. It is just full send. We have to just go for it. We pushed the Poison back so far, though, that I'm willing to take the risk. It's still a risk, but I'm willing to take the risk of focusing the Vermont and just giving my flat broadside to the Poison and just hoping he doesn't hit it is the idea. Now, at close ranges, we're guaranteeing a lot of hits in on this Vermont, going for superstructure, going for those full pens in there, and getting getting an in cap, actually. Very, very helpful. And just basically on cooldown, using these combat instructions. This is where, in a 1v1, where you're not getting focused down as much, Wisconsin's kind of terrifying at close range because these combat instructions can be farmed up very, very quickly as you're almost guaranteed 8 or 9 shell hits per salvo. It's maybe coming back even quicker than, let's say, a Bourgogne's reload booster. It's very, very powerful. 324,000 damage, getting very fortunate. The Poison is either missing or getting unlucky with dispersion. Again, just focused on taking out this Vermont here. And the sub-torps look to be pretty good, so that's going to be him taken out. We take some hits, but again, we're still alive. 4.3 million, 4.25 million potential damage in this one, and 333,000 damage. 3 kills. We still need to finish them off, though. There's no way we're going to get points ahead of the enemy team at this point. 2 minutes on the clock, we have to kill them. I'm hoping our Balau is just, which is what he's doing, heading straight for the Poison and going to try and shotgun him or something. I can't worry about that too much right now, though, as I do need to catch up to this Brisbane. If I don't push around this corner quickly, the Brisbane might actually get away, since his concealment's pretty good. And I often have games where I'm maybe a low-health cruiser, and I can get away, and we just run off the map and accept a win. Fortunately, our shells are so accurate, and we have such good overmatch that even there, the Brisbane does get taken out. And that's the nice thing about Wisconsin, man. Assuming it's not trolling you, because it can troll you with dispersion, the accuracy's nice for those kind of salvos, where you need to take someone out at closer ranges, and it delivers for you. Now, unfortunately, our sub turns away from the enemy Poison there, and we only have a minute left in this game, guys. I think that means we're going to lose. The only chance I have is getting around this island and maybe getting 2 potential salvos, although I got to be quick into that Poison. I don't think I can take him out in 1. It would have to get like some random lucky Citadel. Fortunately, the Balau is turning around to hopefully spot for me. But with Confederate, we do have an improved reload, although our reload booster combat instructions aren't available. 30 seconds left. Can we get the spot here? It's got to be soon, because our reload's around 20 seconds or so. 22 seconds on the clock, and not quite in time. So this salvo's got to do it. 47,000 damage. Wisconsin's pretty accurate. That is going to be 8 full pens. That's about as good as I could have asked for a single salvo, to be honest with you. 338,000 damage. 3, 2, 1. We're loaded, but the game is over, unfortunately. So that is going to be a loss. 4 kills, 4.5 million potential damage. And those last few salvos actually did count. So nearly 400,000 damage in a Wisconsin. Feels amazing. Unfortunate to lose that, man. Oh, I wanted to win it so badly. But well played to the enemy team there to just barely clutch it out. But very nice game in the Wisconsin. Lots of fun, man. If more games could be like this, where it's down to the wire like that, close games, I love it, man. And you can kind of see why I want to play so passive early game, if it means there's potential for matches like this at the end game. It's a little boring to start with, requires a lot of patience, but man, endings like this are just so much fun. And I think that game sits comfortably in the top 2 for myself, with at least random battles. My 2 best games played, Wisconsin or Ohio, both with 409, nearly 400,000 damage, and a ton of fun. Those games are very rare, though. It's been years, maybe 5 years, 4 years since I played that Ohio game, so these don't come around too often, so I gotta enjoy it. But it's pretty cool that it happened with Wisconsin, man. I was having such a bad time initially with this ship. Around, I mean, I averaged like 105,000 damage. My salvos were, I was getting such wonky dispersion. I kind of been joking about, I got a warranty claim on my Wisconsin, so I got a new one back in exchange for my defective one. And maybe I did. I don't know. But I'll take it, man. I'll take that game. Here's the build, though. I haven't changed anything since we talked about it a couple weeks ago, or last week, I think. And it works well, man. It works well. Even though it does seem to suit a more passive playstyle, especially at the start. You get that 12.9 concealment, allowing you to get to mid-range or so, and then turn away and just be kited out. It's kind of lame, but that's how everything kind of plays these days. And it meant that I survived with a lot of HP, a lot of heals, a lot of utility left to the end game, and almost got the comeback. Almost. So close. And yeah, that extra range, pretty nice for those cross maps, even if we couldn't quite deliver that carrier dev strike. I always am looking for those. Unfortunately, we didn't do that in this one, but still managed to get rid of the carrier earlier. That helps a lot on the quality of game. Same with the sub, getting him taken out relatively early on before we started pushing. That helps a ton. But that's going to do it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Really just kind of me indulging on some of my one of my best games ever. I guess there are some takeaways from this one. You can look at some of the playstyle, the positional decisions, when to push, and some things to focus on in the late game as far as decision making goes. But for the most part, just a really fun game, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.